Hey, it's Mario from Blackout Problems. We got invited by Enter Shikari to play a few shows with them in the UK, in Belgium, and in Germany. On our last date in Cologne, Rao from Shikari and me sat down to talk about sustainable touring, his favorite books, and last but not least, the recording and producing process of their upcoming record, A Kiss for the Whole World. Let's go.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, all right. Yeah.
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 Thanks for making some time in your busy schedule. We're just on the release tour of releasing your new album, A Kiss for the Whole World. And you've already played two of the UK residency tours, been to Japan, played Notfest. Now we meet in Cologne, where we have the pleasure of supporting you on 3 intimate shows. In between all that, you're busy directing the music videos, and you've also produced the record that we're talking about. How do you do that? How do you hold up without going completely insane?
Maybe I have gone completely insane. Who knows? I don't know. You just sort of. It's the classic thing. You take things on. You're like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. And then when you're like in the midst of it, you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, this is crazy. But you know that it's going to calm down. Like in June, for instance, I'm just looking at June as like this month of just like, okay, everything's going to be done. We're just going to have a few festivals. All the work's going to be finished. So I'm like just holding out for June. Maybe that'll be the name of the next album. Holding out for June.
But what was it? What made you do all that? Was there a moment where you thought it's easy to handle all that, and you can, like you said, you do it? But is there like a force that drives you to do that?
Yeah. Well, the production side is just because I produced the previous album. It was like, well, there's no going back now. I know that I can do that, so that just enables more creativity. The initial idea of a song, you can then make sure you hold on to it all the way through the production process, so you can do like production techniques that like help boost some initial idea or something. Whereas if you're not the producer, it's a bit harder you have to try and communicate everything, which can be quite hard when it's like these little details and things that most people won't even notice, and then seeing as the album was finished like actually on time, which was crazy. Well, it was the second deadline. We missed the first one, but we made the second one. I then realized, well, I've got some time, so I'm gonna have a go at directing the videos, because I've never really been like completely satisfied with our videos. I think there's like 1 or 2 videos that I like really liked, but they're always just such a rush. And it's a bit of a compromise between whatever vision we as the band have and whatever vision the director has. And so I thought, yeah, fuck it, just give it a go, basically. And I don't think I realised how much work that was. But I think I work quite slowly, so I don't really help myself, I'm very like considered about everything, so everything just takes a long time. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Nice. I just had the pleasure of working with George Perks, who did your engineering on the record.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely legend. Generally nice guy, man.
Yeah.
And he told me about the recording process of the record, and that you've rented a house that you found on Airbnb, and it was situated in the middle of nowhere, so you had no, let's say, normal electricity. Everything was run by solar panels. And he told me a funny story about you guys trying to like start on the first day, and everyone was like using the toaster and boiling the kettle and using the oven and stuff like that. And he was like, man, all the preamps are going mad, and I need the power. So it's either all the production stuff or boiling the kettle.
Yeah.
So what was that like? And I love the idea of you as a band talking about sustainability a lot, recording a record that is only powered by solar panels. That's like a full circle, I think, for most of the fans who value that as well. So how did that came about, and what was it like for you to record that?
Well, we found this place on Airbnb, and I actually called up the owner, and he had forgot that it was still on Airbnb, because no one ever used it. Because like the photos are not great, don't really do it justice, and it's also like quite rustic, like rugged. You know, it's an old house, it needs some work, it doesn't have any like comforts, and he was basically trying to persuade us. He was like, no, you I'm sure you don't want to use this place, like you should find somewhere else. We were like, no, it's perfect, honestly. So we had to like really persuade him, and yeah, so we were, it was exactly what we wanted. We wanted something that wasn't, you know, like a state-of-the-art studio with all this beautiful expensive equipment, and we've been lucky that we've done that, and I think that was good to do, and it's interesting, but like we wanted something that was the complete opposite, just kind of quite raw, and it was a way to just bring us together as a band, because throughout the pandemic we hadn't existed as a band. You know, I wasn't writing, we weren't playing shows, so this was a way to like for us to reconnect as people, like middle of nowhere, just the four of us and George, the engineer, and just concentrate on the music. And you know, we were cooking for each other, we were chopping the wood for the wood fire because there's no central heating, yeah, and then we had to like really almost make a schedule, like, you know, when someone uses the kettle or the toaster, we have to stop recording, and it's either one or the other. But it just made it like a really, I don't know, a really like wholesome experience. And making our own temporary studio as well means that you don't slip into like just comfortable ways of working. You know, if you go into a studio, they're like, okay, the drums go here, we use these mics, you get this sound. You just sort of slip into the same track as like other bands, or you know how they do things normally. And so when you're just setting up everything in a cottage, it's just, you get to, you know, you become a complete control freak, and you can decide everything, every little detail, and it's just like makes it quite nice.
I've seen the barn. I've seen photos of the barn where you recorded the drums. It looked like, I don't know, it looked like it was made for that, you know?
Yeah.
But obviously you had to put in a lot of work. What was it like coming to the house for the first time? Because George told me that it was quite hard. The roads were not used a lot, and what was it like?
The road to the house was like a kind of a 2-mile track, and the owner kindly let us borrow his like big 4-wheel Jeep thing, because they were like so uneven. You couldn't really drive in a normal car because you break the bottom of the car. We tried it, and I think we got one car down, but like it was very, very difficult. But I think that it created more of like a romanticism around the house, because it was literally just in the middle of these fields, no other houses within like 2 miles, and you had to drive down this very picturesque, romantic track to get to the house. It just made it more like, wow, this feels like special.
Yeah, nice. Is that the whole experience why you talk about the new record being the second era of your band?
Yeah, all sorts of reasons for that, really. I think the main reason is that for the first time ever, I didn't write music for a prolonged period. I've had like writer's block in the past where you don't write for a month or something. Mm-hmm. This was 1.5 years, so this was like, it was actually scary. I thought, have I just got to my mid-30s and all my creative years are gone now? Is this me? Have I just lost the ability to write music? It was so strange. And I've since realised that one of the big reasons for that was that we weren't playing shows, and the energy, the sense of purpose, the sense of connection, all of that is like fuel for me as a songwriter. So when you take that away, I was just like, it was like my brain had just said, if you can't share this music with people in a physical space, what's the point? And it just stopped working. So that was very, very strange period. And because it was kind of like an enforced dormancy of the band where we just effectively ceased to exist for a while, when we came back together and started writing again, it really felt like a rebirth. It felt like we'd had this, for the first time ever, we'd had this gap to just breathe and kind of look at the band from above, so then when we started writing, it just felt like something new. But also we'd done the Luke Morton, a writer, had done our biography. So for the first time ever, we were like looking back into the history, the journey that we've gone on right from the beginning up until the period where we started writing this record. So it really felt like, okay, that period, this whole history of the band is like over here, and now we've started a new era, a new chapter, a new whatever. Yeah, it just felt like the rebirth.
I mean, it sounds like it. I mean, all the songs. Actually, I haven't told you, but I had the chance to listen to the record.
Sweet.
And it's amazing. I mean, it's such a. It really, what you just said, it takes off the energy from the first days, from you. I don't know. It's quite a journey, the record, and it's. To me, it sounds so fresh, and it sounds so. I don't know. It's like the second era is so energetic, and so the songs, It Hurts, for example, if you play that song live, it's amazing how the whole room explodes, and that's I don't know. It's to me the record feels really fresh, and it doesn't really feel like being recorded in an old barn or something like that.
Yeah,
it's so it's modern, and yeah, I love it.
Awesome, thank you so much.
I really wanted to talk about one thing on the record that I found, and I have to quote you on that. The last song on the record is called Giant Pacific Octopus, and I love that song with the outro, Giant Pacific Octopus swirling off into infinity. I mean, I love the title, and there's it's like a surprise for me at the end of the record, because it's so uplifting and positive in a way, but on the other hand, there's the lyrics that I love you to talk about. I'm just gonna quickly quote it for the listeners. I went to live outside to find myself, but when I found truth, it was something else. There was a whole collection of characters there. I couldn't help but stare. So if you're looking for personality over looks, that bodes well for me, because I've got 20 or 30 at my disposal. This really got me big time. I was like, I was already longing for another one of your books. Explaining the background of it, but since it doesn't exist at the moment, would you like to talk about how that came about?
Yeah, of course. That song is basically about my experience over the lockdown period, in that I ceased to be Rou from ENTER SHIKARI, and I was just Rou, and I was like, who is that? I don't, I've always been Rou from ENTER SHIKARI since I was like 16. And it was like quite a scary, strange time. So there was a lot of like soul searching and trying to work out who I am. And I sort of came to the conclusion that like no one really knows who they are. Like we can work towards, bettering ourselves. We want to focus on this and make this better, or we want to focus on this and get this out of our character or our personality. But we're just constantly evolving, and we're very sort of fluid. So it's very hard to know exactly who you are. And at first it sounds scary, but I think it should be quite freeing, really. And it made sense to me, because I feel like one of the worst pieces of cliched advice people can give is when they're like, just be yourself. Just be yourself. It's like, well, I don't know who I am. And also I think there's like a million me's, there's like, I can act very differently in very different situations, and so that song, it's all about the kind of multitudes within me, and in the first verse I use the parallel of a chameleon, but then of course there's so many songs that like use the lyric about chameleons, so I was like, what other creatures also change their colors and appear different in different situations or different environments, and the giant Pacific octopus was one of those, because it changes its color, and and it's fucking cool. Like it's such a amazing species. So yeah, I thought that was like a good parallel in nature, you know, like a creature that just like seems to change its color all the time and is comfortable in being many different people in many different situations.
Are you actually writing a new book?
No, I think the process of the last one was so intense that I'm just like, oh, not for a while. Like, at least not a book of that like stature or that intensity. Like, I might do like something small, but yeah, I feel like that took it out of me.
Yeah.
I've read it, and I was really impressed by it, and it really gave me a lot to think about. So I would encourage everyone to read it. And while reading it, I was always like jumping back and forth from your footnotes and see how many quotes you have and how which books you've quoted from. So I'd love to ask you. You seem like a really strong reader. Do you have any recommendations? What are you reading at the moment, or do you have any favorites?
I'm actually going through a period of not reading anything at the moment, which I guess is kind of good to do that every now and then. But I'm sort of looking forward to summer when things are a bit more like chilled out and I can spend some time reading. But I don't know. I think anything like Rory's actually just finished a book that I've started but I haven't finished. Called Come on, baby, don't let me down now. It's by Gabor Mate, who's this incredible Hungarian-Canadian physiologist, I guess psychologist, philosopher. Like, he's just an incredible man. And so it's non-fiction, but it's all about the various ways in which our society fails us in terms of our mental health, in terms of our physical health. Really interesting book. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's his new one anyway. Gabor Mate. I don't know. Yes, recommendations. One of my favourite books of all time is by Thomas More. It's called Utopia. It was written in like the 15th century, I think. But it's like the first time that I'd sort of considered that societies can be structured differently. And it's this story of this guy who goes to this far off island and visits this like culture and this society that, it's just completely different. The way they like interact, the way they connect, like everything is structurally very, very different. And that like sort of blew my mind and made me realize that our society isn't perfect at all. And obviously as the years have gone by, it's so far from perfect. It's like the other end of the spectrum, really. So that was a real like eye-opener. Yeah.
I happen to know that you're a fan of Coldplay. We've talked about that in other podcasts. So you probably have seen about the sustainable tour of Coldplay. Are there any things that you on tour do to make touring more sustainable? Because it's basically, I mean, you have to have a bus, you have to have like a lot of cars going back and forth, maybe flying around and stuff. What are you doing or is there anything that you can do or you can probably recommend to other bands to do?
Yeah, well, the last tour we did, the headliner tour we did in the UK at the end of 2021, was like the first tour where we like really concentrated on like every aspect of the tour and what we could do. So the big thing was that we managed to get our bus, and I think we had 2 trucks. It was 1 or 2 like Arctic trucks for the production, running on renewable fuel. I think it was either hydrogen fuel or HVO. It might be an HVO, like the vegetable oil basically. And that was like a big leap because like in the UK the infrastructure just isn't really there. Now if like for trucks there's like certain points where you can just like route your tours where you can fill up, or you can use like 50% because you can actually mix with normal fuel, which is pretty cool. so that was the first tour that the transportation was carbon neutral, I guess, which was mad. Now, annoyingly, there isn't the infrastructure there for like, say, like vans or like smaller buses and stuff. So it seems to be like you only, you know, if you're Coldplay, then you have like, they probably have like 10 trucks or more, I don't know. They're probably so big that they can like make it work, and they can actually enforce change in the infrastructure, which is great. But like for like smaller bands, I think it's much more difficult in terms of the transport. Then we looked at food. So the catering was majority plant-based, which, you know, some crew members don't like that. But there was always like at least one option that was still like either meat or fish. But the majority was like vegan meals. So that saved a lot of our carbon footprint. And then I guess like the lighting, or it's just, you know, trying to make it as less energy intensive as possible. You obviously don't use like par cans or any like old technology that just gives out loads of waste heat. So it's all LED based. And then what was the other? And then just things like reducing plastic and stuff like that. So there's all these like, you know, areas where you can do what you can, but it's difficult. It's really difficult. And I still think the main thing that musicians and artists should be doing is pointing the finger elsewhere, because, you know, we can all make these changes, but until the fossil fuel industry changes and our whole energy infrastructure changes, we're fucked. So it's like, for me, music's purpose, or at least for us being like a social commentary band or whatever, the main purpose is to just keep pointing the finger at the fossil fuel industry. Because it's just pointless us making all these changes if they're not gonna do anything.
Yeah, I mean, one has to start, right? And I mean, especially as a musician, you inspire a lot of people to first of all think about it. I mean, if people see you on a festival and they just love the performance, they probably get into it and they discover a whole world of topics you talk about, and that probably gets them going, gets them probably to vote differently. That's the thing that how do you think about that? I mean, do you know that you have like what's it like knowing that you have a big impact on people, and especially if you have a big audience? I've talked to people from Kazakhstan, from Russia, from the Ukraine, from Czech Republic, from Letland, all in the last couple of days touring with you. So it's crazy how your fan base first of all is connected worldwide, and then how many miles they make to see you live. That's impressive. What was my question again?
Just the influence.
How do you do you feel that influence?
Yeah, it's surreal, you know. I remember we did for the book launch of the biography, we did a signing, and there was one section in the signing where I spoke, somebody came up to me and they were a doctor for the NHS, and they were like working within the NHS to do all these great things as well, and they said that I think it was anaesthetist, or might have even been an earlier track, that they said it was like one of the reasons that they wanted to go into medicine and help people. It's like, bloody hell, that's crazy. When you're having influence on people's life decisions, you know, it's quite it's hard to compute. It's that's a lot of influence. And then a few more people down the line, there was someone who's working in sustainability in government. There was someone who was a young engineer for wind turbines and things, and all these people had been influenced by either our music or a mixture of things, and it was it's incredible. So that there's some of the most special sort of moments, I think, for me. When people ask what are the major defining moments of your band, or your favorite moments on stage. Like, of course, like there are some crazy great memories of shows and stuff, but sometimes it's just those one-on-one conversations where you're like, it's then that you really see the effect, and it's just like it kind of blows your mind a bit. But yeah, it's mad.
Crazy. Thank you so much for talking to me, and I really have to say that we enjoy every second on this tour. The energy has been mad, especially in the UK. It's been so good to see you there, and I think tonight in Cologne the little venue will explode. So it's kind of
fun. Another sweaty one, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's gonna be fun. Nice one. But yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It was lovely speaking to you. I feel bad for just speaking about me all the time. We'll have to do another interview where it's the other way around next time.
That was it. My talk with Rou Reynolds from Enter Shikari. The new record, A Kiss for the Whole World, will be out on April 21st, so go get your copy. It's amazing. And if you have the chance, then go catch the band live. It's an incredible experience. You won't regret it, I promise. Thanks again, Rou, for sitting down with me. Thanks to the whole band and the crew for taking us out. It's been such a pleasure, and we had a wonderful time on tour. I'm Mario from Blackout Problems. We'll be on tour as well very soon. See you there. Peace out.